use a tit-for-tat excuse, figuring out how to get along without him. I then go around with number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different men, and then I gotta write a letter. That was a long letter.
Was denying that he was even with me the whole time we were in the relationship. He was out of the house 90% of the time.
She'll kick me out like every week?
Yes, because
every week.
I'm always finding text messages. You want to come home at 4 and 5 in the morning?
That happened like twice.
So yeah, I was kicking him out.
She had sex with 2 men on the same day she conceived her baby. In total, there are 10 men within her window of conception. Mr. Crisp and Ms. Hewlett are about to have a long day with Judge Lake at paternity court today.
There. I did it myself. I was working, he was partying, I was left alone at home. He was never there.
And this forced you to cheat.
Yes.
Surely, Miss Hewlett, you're not suggesting that 2 wrongs make a right.
No.
So he wasn't doing the right thing. However, you still feel like it's okay to...
Yes. Mr. Crisp was never really present. This provided the go-ahead in Mrs. Crisp's head to cheat. She simply cannot call her husband out and give an ultimatum. Oh no, she just had to cheat. And oh boy, did she cheat.
She said she was feeling overwhelmed and you were never around because you kept doing the wrong thing.
Yes, Your Honor. My dad just passed away. I felt I was sad that he passed away, so I just got out and partied. I guess I really didn't care. I felt bad about it.
So you had been through a tragic loss.
Yes, Your Honor.
You felt comfort in partying and you just started doing the wrong things.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then you find out...
Oh, Mr. Crisp, this entire thing seems like a whole lot of miscommunication and bad decisions. If he was feeling overwhelmed after his father died, why then did Ms. Hewlett find it extremely difficult to see through that and simply talk to him about it? Whoa, did he just say that baby Bentley looks like Dennis the Menace? These couples come in with a whole new taste for drama each time. Here we go again with the semblance card in court. If baby Bentley has blonde hair and blue eyes, the features of the mother really doesn't matter then. It's always the father's physical features that are expressed on the genes after all.
Has led you to the doubt regarding the paternity of your son Bentley.
Yes, Your Honor. He doesn't look nothing like me. He got blonde hair, blue eyes.
He looks just like
he looks
me,
like
though.
Dennis the Menace.
So, Han.
Plus, she told me he's cheated on me. Had friends tell me. I mean,
so
Phew, so there really were at least 10 people she had sex with during her window of conception. How exactly is Ms. Hewlett bothered that Mr. Crisp does not think he is the father? How does that play out in her head? You tell him that you're pregnant, but you've been with 10 others, and she expects him to believe that he's the Messiah and the chosen one.
Pregnant with Bentley, and I had wrote him a letter telling him about, it was about 10 people, 10 of them.
And you admitted that you had been with 10 other men.
Yes, Your Honor.
Wow. Mr. Crisp, at this point, did you just feel like, well, I'm not the father? Did you deny that you were the father after hearing this?
oh, I was devastated. I really didn't know. You know, I've got 2 other kids with her.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. On top of all of the uncertainty associated with the entire conception date, she still brought out the "you're not the real father anyway" card? With all of this, she's in disbelief that Mr. Crisp keeps denying baby Bentley? Looks like someone's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Did you tell him he was not Bentley's father?
I have said that, Your Honor.
In your heart of heart, did you think he really wasn't Bentley's father?
At times I do think he's not.
And you say the other gentleman is now deceased?
Yes, ma'am, he is. 3 months after I found out I was
Did
pregnant.
he have blonde hair? Did he have some of the features that you see in your son?
Wait a minute. Even Ms. Hewlett has her doubts, and that wraps up this case on paternity court. Everyone should really go home. If she already admits to not knowing whether or not the baby is Mr. Crisp's, what are we all doing here?
Really doesn't look like Joe, but I hope he is Joe's, because that way I made the mistake of Paula's dad could be 3 different men. And I want to break that cycle, because if Bentley has a different dad, he needs to know that when he gets older.
Yeah, because I didn't know that until I was about 11.
I waited till Paula was 11 to tell her.
Hold up, so this is a generational thing? Oh, Ms. Bergen, did your ex-husband cheat on you too? Was that why there were 2 other prospective fathers involved in your daughter's birth? And to wait till she was 11 before she told her about it? Isn't that just something?
I was the only one that worked. I was the only one trying to take care of everything.
I was
I'd
trying to
take
work all
care
the
of
time.
him.
People just didn't pay me.
Now, I have a grand question that I'd love answered. If you weren't happy in the relation, instead of constantly cheating on him with various men so that the paternity of your child would be an issue.
Dang, Judge Lake hit the spot. She hit the nail right on the head too. All of this bickering from Ms. Hewlett capped shut by one grand question. If Ms. Hewlett continues to make excuses as to why she can't leave Mr. Crisp, this would be an unending cycle of cheating and unhappiness. She's already down by 10 men. Would she get to 50?
Mr. Crisp, before you jump up on your pity pedestal, I got something for you too, has said to you over and over again, I'm not happy, you're not here, and yet you keep repeating the same cycle over and over again. Either and you have 2 kids, maybe 3.
Phew, it looks like Judge Lake is putting both mother and father in their place today. Now, after all of this, one can only hope that both parties actually become complacent to their mistakes and do something about it. Baby Bentley is their responsibility, and they do need to understand that. Now, let's get the results.
Mr. Chris, you are his father. I can tell you are all so nervous. I could feel the tension in the air.
Now I can get married and get on with my life.
Ms. Petty has been sleeping with 2 men simultaneously, using one to get back at her ex, and at the same time keeping him in her life because of the baby she already has for him. What a woman. This is about to be one hell of a case.
Doubt her is because she was sleeping around with me and Peter at the same time. The only reason I started messing around with her was to get my son.
You have an older child together, so you were messing around with her to get him.
The way you gotta get it, the way you could get your kid is if you, all she want is the D, so you gotta sleep with her. All you gotta do is sleep around with her.
He came to me.
Whoops. After having the older child together, they had the option of staying together and raising the boy. They obviously did not take that option. Ms. Petty moved on with another man too. So why in hell and in the heavens did they keep messing around with one another?
I tried to stop messing with her, but every time I stopped messing with her, she'll go ahead and bring like son and all this. You ain't gonna be able to, I don't want him to come over there because it's unsafe.
And when you refer to Peter, that's Mr. Daniel.
Yes, Mr. Daniel, my bad.
Your contention is that he never really got over you and still kept coming around. But you have to tell this court. You do admit that you also were having sex with Mr. Daniel.
Oh, Ms. Petty. Surely the entire concept of commitment must be too much for your pretty head. If you choose a man, the whole point of it all is to stay with that one man. Nothing like staying with the man and still going back to your ex-boyfriend. But here we are.
He asked me to give my daughter his last name because he knew all the lies Stefan was telling me.
No, because they was
everybody know everything he was
they was
telling
together
me
for 2 years.
about how he didn't want to take care of her.
And they were sleeping with each other unprotected.
Well. Look at both of them go. It's so difficult for Judge Lake to get a word in as it is. If Ms. Petty claims that her current boyfriend put his name on the certificate because he knows the lies Stefan told her, how come she's still sat at his feet eating up all those lies? Those lies gotta taste hella good, if you know what I mean.
He don't want to be around for her. He didn't even give her the chance, to get to know him. He avoided child support. He avoided DNA testing for my daughter. In St. Louis, I told him, you know what, I don't want to keep running around and all this actionist. Can you just please take the DNA test?
But okay, you understand.
Whoa, Miss Petty really thinks that he already knows in his gut and is trying to run away from his responsibilities. What if he doesn't though? What if he's just a man that keeps projecting off of the fact that he really does not know if it's his baby or not?
I would have sex with them on the same day.
I was afraid I was going to hear that.
All she was trying to do was break a relationship. She was just trying to break up my relationship.
How am I breaking up his relationship?
Because anytime,
you know what? I got a little time to spare.
And every time, didn't I get my son? Didn't I get my son?
So we can have sex.
The bottom line is you're not going to be avoiding this DNA test any further. This is where the buck stops.
Oh my goodness, she's been doing what? Does her current boyfriend even know about this? Oh, it would simply break him. Why exactly is Mr. Bal acting like he never did anything wrong too? Talking about how Ms. Petty keeps ruining his relationship? Why did he have to keep sleeping around with his ex as well? Come on, it definitely was consensual sex.
Up until this point, until the baby was born, did you know that she had been having a sexual relationship with Mr. Ball as well?
She told me before because of the situation when we got together.
Okay.
So she told me that there was one time
but
where they
through
did.
the entire pregnancy, you were there. You were there at the birth.
Yes.
You cut the umbilical cord?
Yes. I stayed up all night holding her. I gave her rest.
Of course. She told him about the one time. Now, who knows if it's just one time or there are more times. After every single moment Mr. Daniels has had with the baby, imagine ripping his heart out of his chest and tearing it to pieces, telling him that he's not the father.
You and Mr. Ball had a sexual relationship.
Last week.
It was not last week. It was not last week. Your Honor, the last time we had a sexual relationship is when she said they broke up.
Mr. Daniel, I see you stomping your foot. Is that anger, frustration? What do you feel?
She didn't say anything like that.
during this time, have you suspected that they were still together?
What is wrong with these two? Honestly, they are meant for one another and they need to take their baggage out of Mr. Daniels' life. They were together last week, as per some days ago. Isn't that the most messed up thing? It seems like it would really never end.
Car outside, so I walk around to the window. I look in there and all of a sudden I'm looking around to see what's going on. I see her hand, he's laying down. Her hands is in his boxers.
What? Okay, I can see the truth is from the look on your face that you all had another sexual encounter that day.
I wasn't even trying to that day.
But
I promise you.
Whoa, her hand was where? Surely she wasn't looking for some truth down his boxers. This woman has a loyal and responsible man that loves her and keeps taking all of this. What more does she want? Putting her hands down other men's boxers, searching for God knows what?
I'm happy for Mr. Daniel, but if she is mine, I just want to say I want custody of both of my children. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a better parent than both of them. Because
he a better parent than both of us.
Yes.
Well, my son was in the hospital.
Oh my.
With his child, and he's not doing nothing for her. For him, neither one. To be honest, I want custody of both of them.
Jerome, I'm ready for results.
I'm not even 100%.
Well, now both dads want full custody. Isn't that something? Let's find out if the baby belongs to Mr. Daniels or Mr. Hands Down His Boxers. Maybe there's another man whose boxers she was searching for some other truth in. We'll find out today in court. Here are the results.
Mr. Ball, you are her father.
He hasn't bought diapers since me and Annette met, which is 2012.
I pay child support.
That has nothing to do with being a father.
You using him, leave him alone, because that's not right. And I'm going to take it one step further for you, okay?
Mr. Jordan claims he was tricked into signing the birth certificate, and there is another man in the picture. Now he's calling Ms. Heim manipulative and unfaithful.
Great father, and I only had sex with one man when we were together, and I had sex with him one time, but we've been messing around for 7 years, and I never became pregnant. I met Chris, and all of a sudden I came pregnant. Yes, Your Honor, but I know that Chris is the father.
But how if you had sex with the other guy?
Looks like we have a psychic in court today. She had sex with 2 different men during her window of conception, but she knows deep down in her psychic bones that one of them is the father. Well, she said it. He's the father. The psychic has spoken. Let's all leave the court. There's no need for a paternity test.
Family members, my family members, the people on the street, and everything about that. And I just came today to show everybody on the street, his family members, my family members, that he's the father, and I'm tired of it.
Because it is upsetting you.
Yes.
And it's because you feel like they're lying on you? Because Mr. Jordan says you consistently lie. What are you feeling?
Would you look at that? She wants him to stop listening to her family members because she's feeling hurt. Well, Ms. Heim, maybe the reason why your own family members call you certain names in front of your husband is because you are these names.
Passed out, like I was there, you know what I'm saying? I sung Happy Birthday when she was born. So I watched the little nasty little afterbirth. Horrible, you know what I'm saying? But I was there.
So you were there for the whole birth
Everything.
and the nasty afterbirth.
Everything, you know what I'm saying? I was there for the weird pregnancy cravings. I was there to rub the feet. I was there to get up out my sleep at night to go get pickles and ice cream.
So this man has been there from the very beginning up until now. What a guy. This woman has a gem in her pocket, but she's not realizing it. Every single thing he's done shows commitment on his end. It makes one wonder where the switch came from. What kind of names do her family members call her, and when did her husband start listening to them?
Her and the family member gets into like an altercation or whatnot, like an argument. It wasn't even an altercation, an argument. And it was like they started like throwing dirt on each other, you know what I mean? So she said something about this family member's in front of this family member's boyfriend or whatever. So the family member turned around and was like, well, why you ain't told Chris that he's not Caitlyn's dad? At that moment, it was just like, I was more in shock than it.
Whoa, so this is how it went down. If your family did not have anything against you, Mrs. Heim, they'll have nothing to tell your husband. So what exactly do they have against you? And what did this little altercation turn into?
Of the other guy and my daughter, you know what I'm saying, like having moments together or, yeah, and as you can see right here, Yana, like, I don't like to say people look alike, but I'm like, yo, it's a lot of resentment.
Oh my goodness, this is so insane. It's like Ms. Heim has been living a double life all this time. How have you been living with the apparent father for 2 years? Then this pops up? What time was the picture even taken? When did this other man have the time to be so cozy in her house?
And it reads, me and my baby Kate.
And my thing is, when did anybody get the time to even take my daughter over to somebody else's house? Like how am I the last person to find out?
Do you know who this man is, Miss Heim?
That's the guy I had sex one time with when I met Chris. My family members are messy, so when I drop her off on the weekend.
Now this story is getting so messed up. There is a man in a picture, shirtless and comfortable in her house. What does that have to do with her family members? Did her family members bring the man into her house and take a picture of him with her daughter?
I let somebody else sign a birth certificate. I'm gonna fix it when you get home. Did it in the third. I'm like, okay, say no more.
She let somebody sign the birth certificate, but she's gonna fix it when you get home.
Yeah.
No.
Miss High, what kind of game you running?
I ain't running no game.
Good game. Fact. He ain't lying.
So how often do you see Caitlyn?
I see Caitlyn when.
Whoa, this is a whole new story. It's safe to say that Ms. Heim here is not telling the truth one bit. So who is the father now? Is it Mr. Shirtless on the couch or Chris? Safe to say that we'll find out soon enough. This woman has manipulated and twisted the minds of these men to suit her. Now that it's getting complicated, she comes to cry in court.
You're in your own prison. And that's why you're just spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and lying and telling this person one thing and this person one thing, and your family members, you just keep calling them messy and they looking at you like you messy and everything's a mess. It can't hold you.
Now that Ms. Heim has taken the entire courtroom on a roller coaster ride, she decided to drop us nicely after Judge Lake explained the entire situation to her. Hopefully, now we get all our questions answered. Let's get to the results.
The biological father is Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan, you are Caitlyn's biological father.
Mr. Hunter caught Ms. Davies cheating on him while they were engaged. Of course, he went on to call off his wedding to her. He is also now denying paternity of Ms. Davies' son Jaden and believes he is not the father. Ms. Davies says all of this is a lie, and Mr. Hunter is seeing things that do not exist.
And Devon, like you stated, have been together for 5 years, almost 6. And due to all the rumors, he no longer wants to get married. He has cut off our wedding plans. So I'm here today to prove that he...
Look at Ms. Davies sounding like a really confident woman. A woman as confident as Ms. Davies is definitely not lying about the paternity of her child, right? Funny things such as this simply do not ever happen at paternity court.
But then I started finding text messages, phone calls from other females. So at that point of the relationship, Your Honor, I no longer trusted him at all.
Well, I found messages from in her phone too, same thing. So that's why I started doing the things I was doing.
Isn't that something? So, both of them simply continued cheating on one another. It seems like the most unhealthy relationship, but Ms. Davies has a good reason for cheating on her husband. She absolutely does. She's doing it because he's doing it. Isn't that just the most valid thing?
Then I decided that, okay, two can play that game, and I decided to go out and talk to someone else.
Now, once you did that, what happened?
Well, once I did, I briefly had a relationship with the guy. We were sexually together a few times.
Did you use
Why
protection?
she was with me?
Well. Technically, she did not exactly sleep with the man. She was just sexually in contact with him, whatever that means. However, if she ended up being pregnant from this interesting sexual contact...
I was 100% sure at the time, but I wanted Devon to be the father because he has been there in my life for, at this time, we've been together like 2.5.
All right, so now we're getting honest now, and
Right.
that's what we're here to do.
How come she's so certain that this baby belongs to Mr. Hunter and not Mr. Sexual Contact? Finally. Now, we're getting some important truths in court today. Now that Mr. Hunter says he had doubts immediately she told him she was pregnant, it's so interesting to think about the sort of things this man heard about his girlfriend. What could have made him doubt his partner having his baby?
People tell me that she been hanging out, hopping in and out of cars, you know what I mean? I had a friend that told me they went to a party one time and she hooked up with some guy at the party. That was around the time when the baby was gonna be conceived.
You're not denying it.
Oh my goodness, Ms. Davies. She literally just told us about Mr. Sexual Contact, someone she had sex with several times. It's definitely understandable that Mr. Hunter has a lot of paternity doubts. Who would blame the guy? Really?
Stay over her house. I had been drinking, so I want to go lay down, right? I accidentally fall asleep longer than I'm supposed to, so she's thinking I'm gone. She brings another guy and another girl upstairs into the room while I'm in there. So then she makes me leave.
Whoa, what an interesting story. Ms. Davies, how many men are in the picture? How exactly is Mr. Hunter not supposed to have a million paternity doubts? It's one thing if the man has things he's thinking about and rumors he's hearing, and it's another thing when he's seeing them all happening in high definition.
Let him come over because he was drinking. He said he needs to sleep it off for a while. So I'm thinking he's gone. And so I did come with the guy and the girl to my house and my room.
What were you bringing the guy and the girl in your room to do?
What a woman. So there are now at least 2 different guys in the equation, and somehow Ms. Davies insists that her son belongs to Mr. Hunter. What a woman. It's definitely not all case scenarios that Mr. Hunter caught. Makes one wonder about the ones that got away.
Her in the kitchen. We sitting in the living room one day, and then she gets up and walks to the kitchen, and she's in the kitchen for like maybe 10, 15 minutes. She's supposed to came back already. I walk around to the kitchen, and she's damn near standing in between this guy's legs.
What a lineup of stories. Phew. What a woman indeed. You know what? We have heard enough. It is time to check out the DNA test results and see what is actually going on here. Is Ms. Davies a big fat liar, or is Mr. Hunter just trying to run from his responsibilities?
Mr. Hunter, you are not the father.
I told you.
I'm very sorry.
Ms. Robinson and her mom, Mrs. Palmer, are here hoping to finally get some answers about who Ms. Robinson's father is. But Mr. Rollins, the man they believe is the dad, is straight up denying it. He's saying he's 1000% sure he's not the father. Not sure his math adds up, but we'll see if he's right.
Ms. Robinson, you and your mother have opened your case today in hopes of giving you closure.
Yes.
You say you've always known the defendant was your father, and his denial has crushed you.
So according to Mr. Rollins, Ms. Palmer was busy with multiple men back in the day. And I'm pretty sure we all know that she wasn't exactly working. Ms. Robinson, on the other hand, is the real victim here. Let's see if she can finally get some answers.
So, Ms. Robinson, explain, how has the feeling of denial affected you?
Your Honor, it affected me real bad. Like, I feel like that he wasn't responsible to even say I'm his daughter or not.
And so for 24 years, you've had to deal with this?
Yes, Your Honor.
I feel for Ms. Robinson. I really do. But how can we be sure Mr. Rollins is actually her father? And what's up with Ms. Palmer telling her daughter that a man who wanted nothing to do with her is her father?
So, Mr. Rollins, you do not believe you are Ms. Robinson's biological father?
No, ma'am.
You say you're 1000% sure?
1001.
So, Ms. Robinson, as you grew up, were you told his name?
As I knew him as Doobie.
What? Why would you put a little girl through that? I can only imagine what Ms. Robinson has been feeling all these years. Knowing your supposed father and finding out he wants nothing to do with you has to be painful on so many levels.
So after that encounter, how were you feeling?
I was feeling like that he didn't own up to nothing. Like, if you laid down with my mama, you should have just owned up and be like, oh, I might could have been your daddy.
There's no telling who's in the wrong here. On one hand, Ms. Palmer is convinced that Mr. Rollins is Ms. Robinson's dad. The only problem is, she's never had him tested. And on the other hand, Mr. Robinson actually met his supposed daughter when she was 9 years old. But he didn't even consider the possibility that he could be her dad.
Do you remember a 9-year-old child saying to you, "Are you my daddy"? Do you remember that?
I remember a child observing me, but not
Okay.
coming to me and saying that you are my father.
Damn! We're barely 5 minutes in and things are already getting heated. Mr. Robinson is fired up. But always watch where you point your flame in Judge Lake's courtroom, because as Mr. Robinson just learned, you're the one who ends up getting burnt. Oh, and she's not done yet.
This is the issue here. Ms. Robinson is in court because she's trying to find her father.
That's why I'm
And
here.
you are in court because you admittedly slept with her mother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So much for 1000% sure. It's about time Mr. Rollins understood why he's standing in that courtroom. You're not here to spectate, buddy. You're on trial.
In her mind, when she came up to you and said, "You're my father," and you said, "No, I'm not," in her mind, that was my father rejecting me because it was all her mother ever told her, right?
Exactly. Ms. Robinson is the victim here. And in my opinion, she's the only one who has the right to be mad. Ms. Palmer and Mr. Rollins should just act like the adults they are and work towards finding out the truth. But from what we've seen so far, that may be a tall order.
But let me ask you this question, Your Honor.
Please do.
After the truth and everything, will the tables turn on her? The
Well,
mother,
no.
that's who I'm talking about.
No, listen.
You know what? Now, you know, I'm looking like the deadbeat.
No.
You've got to love Judge Lake. Mr. Rollins looks like the kind of guy who wins every single argument he's in, but he's met his match today. Well, not really his match because, let's be honest, he just got bodied.
So now moving on,
I'm lit.
Mr. Rollins, that encounter where you saw Miss Robinson, what was your reaction once you saw her?
Honestly, I looked at her and I already knew.
Interesting. If Mr. Rollins is right, this case could get a whole lot messier. And did you just see the reaction from Ms. Palmer? For her sake, I hope it's confidence giving her all that sass, because those are the kinds of statements that make you look silly if you get caught lying.
Who are you talking about? What do you know?
The thing is, I can't prove it right now.
Okay.
But the only thing I can do is verbally tell you.
Verbally state it.
She had multiple parts. She was multitasking.
No, I was not. You probably were multitasking. I know I would.
So Mr. Rollins is the father by process of elimination? We'd take your word for it, Ms. Palmer, but after sitting through hundreds of cases just like yours, we know better. And as long as Mr. Rollins hasn't been tested, there's no way we can be sure he's the father.
So, Ms. Robinson, when was the next time you saw Mr. Rollins?
When I had added him my friend on Facebook and he accepted me, I texted him, I was like, hey, do you know who I am? He was like, yeah, years ago you mentioned to be my daughter.
Now wait a damn minute. That's not the kind of thing you just gloss over. What happened to onesies? Or a box of diapers? Hell, it might be too early, but even a backpack would be better than a freaking DNA test.
So
he bought a home DNA test to your baby's first birthday?
Yes.
That's because I was asked to bring it.
Who asked you to bring it? You had said to Mr. Rollins, and bring a DNA test.
Yes.
Because you wanted the answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
So did you bring the test, Mr. Rollins?
Whew. I'm glad we got some clarity on that one, but I'm a little bit confused right now. Where the hell was Ms. Palmer when all this was going down? I mean, she's the one who should have been pushing for the DNA test, right?
At the first birthday, do you enjoy yourself, Mr. Rollins? Are you there like grandfather? What is the dynamic like at this party?
Basically the same thing it is now. It's like, you know, you point me out, truly, and eventually they're gonna understand today, I'm not that.
This guy is a riot. If he wasn't on trial for paternity, I'd have said Mr. Rollins is the kind of dad who lights up every birthday party, family gathering, and cookout. But here he is, denying a child that could be his. So I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed.
When he came there, they was in the kitchen talking, and he gonna say, let me see your feet. And he said, your mama been sleeping with a lot of men.
Could someone please remind Mr. Rollins that he's on trial? Because if I didn't know any better, I'd have thought he was practicing his new stand-up comedy routine. Anyway, I have no idea what he just said, but I might need to look it up.
And the other parties that I was speaking upon,
feet, you discovered that.
Oh yeah.
And therefore, you came to the medical conclusion.
I know it's hereditary. You know, I did a lot of research on it.
Okay, Mr. Detective, now we're getting somewhere. Granted, we still don't have any evidence, but with these new allegations, this case just got a whole lot juicier. I think you should expound on that, Mr. Rollins.
Yes.
How do you know she even was intimate with that guy?
That's what I want to know.
I observed it.
Whoa, excuse me?
Yes, I observed it.
Ooh, on the grass. Really, Ms. Palmer, you didn't make it to the house, let alone the bedroom. Of course, these are all still unconfirmed allegations, but damn. And also, is it just me, or did Ms. Palmer's body language just change?
Your Honor,
so you thought that was Ms. Palmer?
I knew it.
Did you ever follow up with your partner, your associate, and say, were you with Ms. Palmer as well?
Every night they had done a little thing, he would always come back and high-five me and tell me how much.
Mr. Rollins is looking less and less like the father now, which is saying something considering how shifty he seemed at the beginning of the case. Talk about a comeback. On the other hand, we're getting our first piece of evidence. Let's see if it can turn the tide.
And on the right is a shot of Mr. Rollins' mother. Beautiful woman.
Man, I never noticed that.
Beautiful picture.
Okay, baby.
So, Mr. Rollins, are you saying you see a resemblance now?
I mean, yeah, with the...
Kudos to Mr. Rollins for being honest, but can I say something? I really don't see it. Good thing I'm not the one on trial here, because things could have got way louder if I was Mr. Rollins. The emotion and tears on Ms. Robinson says it all. After experiencing so much denial, hearing Mr. Rollins acknowledging their resemblance has to be comforting.
Take a moment, Ms. Robinson, and just look at Mr. Rollins and just talk to him about how you feel.
I feel like that I never had a father in my life, and my mama, she was always there for me.
How could you not feel sorry for Ms. Robinson? She's been through it all. And finally, she's standing right next to the man she's always thought was her father, ready to learn the truth. It's a good thing that the waiting is over, because it's about time we got the answer to this 24-year-old mystery.
Mr. Rollins, you are not the father.
It was just my mistake, but I know I didn't sleep with nobody else.
Well, we know that that's a lie.
Ms. Murphy feels betrayed. After a short, passionate relationship with Mr. Miles, she got pregnant, and Mr. Miles was nowhere to be found. Now, Mr. Miles is married and apparently wants nothing to do with Ms. Murphy and her baby. There's no way this ends well.
Ms. Murphy, you claim you had a short, passionate relationship with the defendant, Mr. Miles, and then you became pregnant. Now you say he's married and wants to forget he has a 3-year-old son.
Yes, Your Honor.
So before we even get started, there's a lot to unpack here. First, that age gap is pretty sus. Let's be real here. Denying a baby isn't the only crime Mr. Miles is guilty of. And second, did y'all just see Mr. Miles's occupation? The guy is a church minister, which makes this whole case even crazier.
Ms. Murphy, how has Mr. Miles participated in your son's life?
Your Honor, this man has not done anything for my son. I can count on one hand how many times he's ever even came to visit his son.
Ooh. Ms. Murphy is coming in hot with the bars. She's clearly frustrated, and it's easy to understand why. On the other hand, Mr. Mize has every right to believe whatever he wants to believe. But if the boy ends up being his son, he's going to look like the biggest douche on the planet.
This is exactly
he
what
wasn't
I
willing
told
to
her.
pay for the paternity test
And that's not
any
true.
other way. He said he didn't have the money for it. If that's the case, Your Honor, we would not be here. It would already been taken care of.
Okay, Mr. Miles, thanks for the testimony, but if I'm not mistaken, hickeys have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Mr. Miles might be a possible father. And I don't know about you, but Mr. Miles doesn't sound very believable right now.
Whether or not she was sleeping with anybody else?
Yeah, her family members told me specifically
The family members that you were sleeping with.
The family members told me that she was getting around. Family members told me that she was getting around.
The family members that he was sleeping with told
Miss
him that.
Murphy.
Now this, folks, is the classic case of the pot calling the kettle black. How in the world are we supposed to believe Mr. Miles's testimony when he just snitched on himself multiple times in a matter of seconds?
Besides, about the family part, I never knew that he was dealing with any of my family. That's ridiculous.
Were you dating, seeing Mr. Miles exclusively?
This is getting way too messy. Sleeping around with Ms. Murphy at her age was already criminal. Literally. I mean, I'm not sure how he's here in the courtroom and not in jail right now, but sleeping around with her relatives too, man. This guy has issues.
It's just
the hickeys on her. The hickeys on her.
Never had hickeys
Yeah,
before.
you did. Yeah, you
Never
did.
had hickeys.
Okay. The hickeys
You
on her neck.
gotta have
Come into
another
my
piece
house.
of evidence besides these hickeys.
Okay.
Potent. Well, that's a new one. And why is Mr. Miles so stuck up on those hickeys? Because believe me, mister, if the only so-called evidence you can come up with is hickeys and skimpy clothing, you might as well start paying child support right now.
I have not heard sufficient evidence to believe why you wouldn't think you potentially could be this beautiful young man's father. I'm waiting for the evidence.
Exactly. Mr. Miles hasn't presented a single piece of credible evidence since this case started. That hasn't stopped him from yapping, though. All he's doing at this point is getting on Ms. Murphy's nerves, and Judge Lake isn't having it.
Didn't make sense. Now you have a witness. I'd like to hear from her. Ma'am, please stand and step to the podium. Your name?
My name is Mrs. Miles.
Mrs. Miles, and you are Mr. Miles's
wife.
If you thought this case couldn't get more complicated, you were dead wrong. Mrs. Miles just stepped in, and things are getting heated. I don't know how she can still stand by her husband in this situation, but you know what they say? Love makes you do crazy things.
If Miss Murphy would have thought that was her son, Keeper would have told me before we even got together.
Not necessarily.
Like he told me about his other baby mamas. I know about them.
That's a weird way to look at things. How is it Ms. Murphy's responsibility to seek out Mr. Murphy's wife and let her know what's going on? And denying that the baby is Mr. Murphy's just because he didn't tell her about it is pretty insane too.
His father. You should have came to me and said, this is his son. If it is his, I want him to get in his life. I want him to get to know his brothers.
Oh, wait a minute now,
but
Miss
then you
Murphy,
went on him so that you could be around him.
And boom goes the dynamite. The way things were going, it was only a matter of time before someone exploded in the courtroom. I'm just glad it was Judge Lake, because there's no telling what kind of chaos these three would cause if they got mad.
To be honest with his wife about the situations he's involved in when they meet and marry. Whether or not the paternity had been established, he still has to be honest and say, I potentially have an issue in my life.
After those stern but thoughtful words from the judge, I think we need some chill, positive positive vibes to calm everything down a bit. So it's a good thing that Ms. Murphy's witness is cool, calm, and collected. And it's an even better thing that he's raising this baby as his own.
I provided videos and everything to see how much a father he's been to this.
Mr. Narvaez, please explain the nature of your relationship with Takori.
That's so heartwarming. It's nice to see some positivity after what feels like hours of yelling and bad vibes. The fact that Mr. Narvaez has already stepped into his role as a stepdad sure says a lot about the kind of man he is.
Mr. Miles, as you look at those pictures of another man with a son that potentially be yours.
Well, Your Honor, honest opinion, that's fine and dandy that he is doing those things. That's great he is doing those things.
You won't.
No, it's not the fact that I won't.
The man has his faults, a lot of faults, if we're being honest. But it's good to hear that he's willing to be a part of Takori's life if the DNA test proves he's the dad. So what are we waiting for? It's time to find out the truth. Judge Lake, let's hear it.
Mr. Kiva, Miles, you are his father.
Thank you. I have no reason to lie. I have no reason to lie. No reason. No reason.
Ms. Hicks is here claiming that Mr. Smith is the father of her 3-month-old daughter, Honesty. But Mr. Smith is coming in hot, saying he can't be the dad because of a medical condition that makes him unable to have kids. And get this, Ms. Hicks's own sister, Quintara, is siding with Mr. Smith. This is about to get real spicy, I can feel it.
Ms. Hicks, you say the sins of your past have brought you into court today to save your relationship. You are petitioning the court for a DNA test.
Well, that's not something we see every day. Sisters on opposite sides of the courtroom? You already know this one's about to get nasty. And how does Ms. Hicks feel about all this? It must be terrible to have your own sister testifying against you.
So, Ms. Hicks, how does it make you feel hearing Mr. Smith deny paternity?
I know I've only slept with him, and I know who my children belong to.
Slow down, Carlicia. You could at least give us some time to prepare before you drop bombs like that. And it might just be me, but Quintara seems a little bit too aggressive towards her sister. I wonder what that's about.
So, Mr. Smith, you hear the allegations that have been stated thus far. This is what leads you to believe you are not the biological father of Honesty? Explain.
I used to work out a lot, and one time I strained myself too hard and I had to go to the hospital.
Ooh, sorry, buddy. That sucks for Mr. Smith, but if he's right, then this case is pretty much done and dusted. Judge Lake will need to see some evidence before she can validate his claims, though. I just hope we don't get to see it.
And this is what you were told by a medical professional.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you inform Ms. Hicks about this when you all were in a sexual relationship?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. He never informed me about any of this. When he did tell me, this came up like 2 months after Honesty was born.
Come on, Mr. Smith. That's the kind of information you lead with. And what was that scoff from Quintara? She's got some serious unresolved issues with Ms. Hicks, and it's hard to imagine how they can fix their relationship.
So, Mr. Smith, you seem confident. You say she knows good and well that it's not your child.
Yes, Your Honor.
And why do you think she knows that? If you say you informed her about the fact that you couldn't have children?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yep, I guess it's safe to say we all saw that one coming from a mile away. But considering just how much resentment Quintara has for Ms. Hicks, is she really a credible source of information?
I believe she did.
So, Ms. Hicks, you were the informant? You were the person telling Mr. Smith everything your sister was doing? Why would you do that?
Y'all don't know my sister like I do, okay?
To be honest, I actually feel bad for these two sisters. What the hell happened between them to cause such a huge rift? Oh, and Quintara saying the reason she acted as Mr. Smith's informant was because she felt sorry for him? I don't buy it.
She believes her own lies, okay? They come true in her head. I don't know
and
why
once
she do
again,
that,
I
okay?
guess you're there with me while I'm sleeping with these men. We having a wang dang, ain't it?
Yep, child. I'll be right there.
We threesoming now.
Finally. Some solid evidence. Well, it's not the actual text, just a recollection of what Mr. Smith remembers seeing. Okay, so maybe it's not that solid, but hey, at least it's something. So Ms. Hicks, what's this we're hearing about a kitty?
Ms. Hicks, I have to ask you, did something similar to this come through your phone?
I don't even remember that text message, Your Honor. I honestly do not remember this text message whatsoever.
I bet you don't even remember when he went to his grandma's house because they got into it.
Those are some serious allegations, but still, Where the heck does Quintara get her information from? Is she spying on her own sister? Well, whatever she's doing, it seems to finally be paying off, because that clearly got Ms. Hicks off guard.
Have you ever had occasion to witness firsthand the fact that she was with somebody else?
Yes, Your Honor.
That dude jumped out the window.
Thanks for pointing that out, Judge Lake. It's kind of hard to focus on Mr. Smith losing his keys when we could be talking about a man jumping out of the window. Want to explain that one, Ms. Hicks?
Stay on the second floor. We live in an apartment building,
He jumped out
and we
the window.
stay on the second floor.
So he jumped out the window.
Like himself, when he jumped out the window, like I expected that guy that he's.
Was Ms. Hicks cheating on Mr. Smith with Spider-Man? Because I'm not sure how anyone is jumping out of a second-floor apartment window to hide. Like, what happened to good old-fashioned closets?
All right, take me to the point you realize you're pregnant.
Mr. Smith, he came to me and said, I've been sick, I've been throwing up, and I've been feeling funny, so I think you need to take a pregnancy test. So he goes to the store and comes back with a pregnancy test that has 2 in a box.
I'm still trying to find out how Quintara ended up being Mr. Smith's spokesperson. Like, do you really hate your sister that much? And hold up. Where was the whole "I can't have kids" argument when Mr. Smith was celebrating about Ms. Hicks' positive pregnancy test?
So, Mr. Smith, you found out she's pregnant?
Yes.
Were you happy about it?
Faking it to her, but I know in my mind that
faking it.
I can't have.
Oh, you were faking it to her?
Yes, Your Honor.
Faking it? That has to be one of the weakest arguments I've ever heard on this court. And naming the child. Come on, Mr. Smith. That's pretty much the daddest thing you could possibly do. I'm now convinced that Mr. Smith was sure it was his baby right up until Quintara started putting ideas in his head.
Do you have any other kids?
No, Your Honor.
You don't. So you believe it's the hypogonadism that contributes or has affected you so that you could not father any children?
Yes, Your Honor.
And now, it's time to address Mr. Smith's biggest concern, the medical condition that makes him unable to have kids. For obvious reasons, we're not going to get Quintara's opinions on this. Let's hear what the doctor has to say about all this.
All right, so now I want to understand, based upon his testimony, does hypogonadism affect his ability to have children conclusively?
There's a lot to unpack there. First, Mr. Smith's theory that he can't have kids has pretty much been debunked. And second, why is Mr. Smith parading baby honesty around his family if he knows she's not his daughter?
Why are you taking the baby around your family, Mr. Smith?
Because I raised her own son as mine, and I don't like people like that to be deadbeat.
So you say you're not taking her because you believe she's yours. You're taking her to be kind, and you would not want.
Yeah. Let it all out, Ms. Hicks. I can only imagine how it feels to have your boyfriend and sister team up against you, especially when you know you're right and they're wrong.
Why do you say it devastates you, Ms. Hicks?
Because it's coming from my full-blooded sister. We have the same mom, same dad. And I don't know why would this come from you anyway. As
Because
close
I know
as
what
we
you do,
are,
Carlisha.
we're very close.
No way. These two are close. They must have a different definition of what close means, because from the time this case started, Quintara has been at Ms. Hicks' throat. And judging from the way Quintara acts, I believe Ms. Hicks when she says she takes care of her like a child.
Yeah, and I love my sister. I really do. I truly love my sister. I go to the end if I have to. I would die with
Love
her.
is not trying to mess up someone's
I'm not
relationship.
trying to mess up your
I don't
relationship.
be in your relationship. You have no business in mine.
Judge Lake is right, sisters, and siblings in general fuss and fight every time. But going against each other in court, well, that's just a bit too much if you ask me. With tensions rising and the stakes at an all-time high, it's finally time for the results. So you might want to do what Quintara did and take a seat for this one.
Mr. Smith, you are the father.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. I'm so glad that I came here today to get these results so I can finally be at peace, so me and my daughter can live with this man who I plan to marry someday.
The Dark versus Bailey case took a different turn when an unexpected woman shows up. But that's not the problem here. Mr. Dark is calling Ms. Bailey a promiscuous liar. What could she have done to deserve that name? Let's find out.
Mr. Dark, you say the defendant is a promiscuous liar who broke your heart 4 years ago, stepping out on your then relationship. You admit to having a one-night stand with her 2 years ago, but are furious Ms. Bailey is now claiming you fathered her 11-month-old son which you say is impossible. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Coming back to have a one-night stand with your ex-girlfriend without the intention of getting back together is a bit of the rack. What's worse is Mr. Dark believes their unprotected sexual intercourse that night can't lead to a baby. Maybe Mr. Dark needs to go back to school to learn biology.
Bailey, you say Mr. Dark is a deadbeat who knows full well he is your son Jameer's father. You claim there is no way anyone but Mr. Dark could have fathered your son. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Bailey is saying the opposite, and if she truly had not slept with any other person, Mr. Dark would have been the father of that child. There really isn't any in between, except there's another person in the picture at that time. So, was there any other person in the picture?
Her best friend came running out of the door to like, hey, Terrence, wait up for a second, I'm gonna go to the store with you. So, I I thought that was kind of strange, like, why'd you, But anyway, we went on to the store. Well, while we was going to the store, her friend started to tell me a story. She was like, well, I just want to tell you something. She was like, well, the whole time that you was gone.
Okay, now there's a twist, and of course, the question has been answered. Ms. Bailey's best friend might have been a tattletale for ratting her out. But hey, cheating on your partner while he was out of town because you thought he was cheating? Girl, please.
But
so you admit you cheated on him?
I did.
Okay, and so your best friend told on you?
Yep.
What happened to your relationship with Miss Bailey at that point?
I tried to work past it again because of the things that we had already discussed of us being a family and us, trying to work things out, possibly us getting married or whatever the case may be. But I tried to work it past for about approximately a year or so, but I just couldn't take it. I couldn't.
Cheating on Mr. Dark is one thing, but accepting it in open court while smiling like that is on another level. Mr. Dark said he was trying to get past it, but it's as clear as day that he was never going to be able to do that. That level of trust doesn't wander the street, so it's rare.
We still occasionally seen each other every, like 2, 3, maybe every 2 months, 3 months or so.
What's dealt with each other mean?
We still seen each other occasionally.
Seen each other and had sex, or
yes,
just seen each other
still
and said hello?
Unprotected sex sometimes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you kept having sex until
2016.
It was like early March.
Dealing with each other, Mr. Dark really couldn't get over Ms. Bailey, judging from their meaning of still dealing with each other. He could have just dealt with another woman in that aspect, but no! Mr. Dark specifically loved Ms. Bailey's body more, so dealing with her was the best option for him.
You feel like you were a crutch?
Yes, ma'am, because from the beginning, I was there at the hospital when Jameer was born, even with my doubts, because in the back of my mind, I didn't never want to feel like, okay, he really was my son and I didn't do the things that I was supposed to do as a father. I was there when he was born. The onesies and stuff that he took home,
okay, so
I
why
bought
did
for
you
them.
sign the birth
Pampers.
certificate?
Oh, okay. Here comes the waterworks from Ms. Bailey. Forcing Mr. Dark to sign the certificate isn't right, but since Mr. Dark forgot to learn a bit about legal cases or didn't bother watching legal dramas while growing up, he fell for that trap easily. However, it's not a trap if the baby belongs to him.
And you can step up to the podium. State your name for the court.
My name is Yana Bradley.
Miss Bradley, thank you for joining us. You are what relationship to Mr. Dark?
I'm his current girlfriend and I'm pregnant with his child.
Okay, what would you like to tell the court?
Well, first, in my personal opinion, I don't feel like the baby looks like him.
The unexpected guest shows up and she's acting like the new bride. Well, at least she's not going to be tagged a one-night stand. Judging from the new girlfriend's explanation, Ms. Bailey's story is now more sketchy than it was before, but Mr. Dark could still be the father.
That he step up and that he do for my baby, like, I don't understand. And I grew up without my parents, so I want him to be there for Jameer.
So you're saying you grew up without your parents?
I did, and it was very hard for me.
He should step up? Under normal circumstances, it's really none of his business if he's not the father, but okay, even if he's willing to step up, Ms. I'm pregnant on the side doesn't look like she would be cool with that. Mr. Dark and his new girlfriend are as impatient to hear the DNA result as everyone, so let's wrap it up.
Mr. Dark, you are the father.
I told you that he was yours.
Your word ain't, man.
Okay.
So listen, when I first told you you were the father, Mr. Dark, I saw genuine emotion on your face.
Looking for a perfect church man when you're not a perfect church woman? Oh, these cases never cease to amaze the judge and even the rest of the world. Because what does Ms. Looper mean that she thought Mr. Downs would be a perfect man? Does that even exist?
You say you thought the defendant was a respectful, church-going family man who turned out to be anything but. You claim that after giving birth to your twins, Brayley and Bishop, Mr. Downs denied fathering your babies. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Downs, you say Ms. Looper carried on a secret relationship behind your back.
Ms. Looper wasn't loyal, but she wanted a loyal man. Okay, since you're the most loved human the Lord created. Anyway, Mr. Downs doesn't appear to be a bad man, but he still deserves to know if he really fathered Braley and Bishop.
Then we ran into some problems. He went through my phone, and I did have a lot of open doors.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me get that metaphor.
Okay.
Open doors. So you still had other relationships that you had not quite cut off.
Absolutely. This was 2 weeks after we started hanging out. So we weren't in a relationship. We weren't together.
Open doors. Ms. Looper keeps acting like the paternity test about her twins is a joke. Those open doors were meant to be shut the moment things got serious. But guess Ms. Looper was enjoying the attention from other guys while securing her Mr. Good Guy.
Changed tremendously though after he went through my phone. Our vibe was different. We weren't hanging out as much. When I found out I was pregnant, I called him and he didn't even answer. That's where we were at.
So how did he ever find out?
I sent him a text message. He was really nonchalant about it, but once I did get pregnant, he was amazing. Cedric rubbed my feet, rubbed my belly. He would get up at 2 a.m., go get me ice and hot Cheetos.
Any man would recline too, even if it was her brother. Mr. Downs still being around during the pregnancy is really amazing. That man right there played a mature man by not kicking her to the curb because Ms. Looper is not even apologetic about her open doors while they already had something going on between them.
Just leave the okay to hot Cheetos and rubbing bellies and doing that. How's it get to that?
I got 3 other children outside of these 2 we here for today. I ain't never, ever turned my back on none of my kids. I've been there for all of my kids since day one. I just felt like me as a man and the way I've been obligated to my other kids, there's still a chance that they're mine, so I'm not gonna build this whole little...
That's it. Mr. Downs is a responsible man, but we can't say the same for Ms. Looper. Mr. Downs wouldn't let the twins suffer regardless of him having doubts about their paternity. Mr. Downs already knew fully well that Ms. Looper was still opening her door during the conceptual time period of the twins, but he still stayed.
As soon as they brought Braley into the room, the first thing he said was, "Do you guys do DNA tests here? I've never had a kid come out that light." That's the first thing he said when he seen her. But he did go see my son, and he did say that he looked like him.
So when you saw Braley, you had questions instantly. You didn't feel like you could be her father.
Inasmuch as Mr. Downs was responsible, he still needed to know if those babies were his children, and he had the right to ask for that DNA, but Ms. Looper wasn't having that. Man believes all of his kids are meant to come out a certain way. Yeah, that might be a myth, but sometimes your intuition doesn't lie.
Baby, I posted Braley on Snapchat, and the other guy who the messages he seen wrote me and sent me a picture of his daughter and told me that, like, I believe that that's my daughter.
Wow, so you posted a picture of Braley, and the other man you were having sex with wrote to you and said, "I think this is my daughter."
Okay, Ms. Looper is ready to talk about the other guy, but this other guy only claims the baby on Snapchat when she posted. Maybe that's the type of men Ms. Looper was used to. Men that don't look back on where they deposit their sperm till the baby gets posted online. Okay.
Mr. Downs, do you feel like you could be the father of one twin and someone else be the father of the other?
Yes, ma'am. I just like with Bishop, I felt a much bigger bond with my son. Every time I see him when we video chat, like his face just lights up when I'm talking to him. Like, you know what I'm saying? He knows my face, he knows who I am. And Braley does too, to an extent, but it's just something about...
Now, Mr. Downs thinks this is the case of fraternal twins, where twin babies have different fathers. To be fair, you wouldn't blame the poor guy. He doesn't feel a strong connection with one of them, and that just makes him uncomfortable. But Ms. Looper knows better.
Relationship with how are you treating the children?
I mean, you know what I'm saying, when I had flown to California, she had got me out there to go see the kids. And I mean, like I said, we had a good time. I bonded with both of them, but like I said, it's just something about my son that makes me feel like that's the one that's mine.
So you all fully broke up and you went to California?
Yes, ma'am, she up and left.
Oh yeah, I left to California.
Ms. Looper keeps testing everyone's patience, and the mood in the room is slowly changing from a regular back and forth argument to everyone wanting to know if those kids truly belong to Mr. Downs. It's time to know if Ms. Looper has been fooling Mr. Downs or not. Let's open those envelopes.
Mr. Downs, you are not the father. The next result reads as follows. Mr. Downs, you are not the father.
Cheating for 8 years in a 12 years relationship? Oh, that may have to go on the record of one of the worst cheating cases, and Mr. Robinson has to be one of God's angels to control his anger in that courtroom. Ms. Fuller's action can't be fathomed or understood by a regular person.
Mr. Robinson, after a 12-year relationship with the defendant, she confessed that your 3-year-old son, Brandon Jr., may not be your biological child. Now you say your engagement to Ms. Fuller is broken off and your heart is in ruins because of the possibility you may now lose your son too.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Robinson may be one of God's angels on earth, but he's not about to let the baby carry on with his name. So he's demanding for a $100 payment from the court to change Brandon Jr.'s name. It's just right he steers clear off anything relating to the Ms. Fuller if the baby isn't his baby.
Additionally, Mr. Robinson, you are asking the court to award you $100 to pay the fee to change Brandon Jr.'s name if indeed the results reveal you are not his father and you have to move on without him.
Ms. Fuller may be feeling some type of guilt, but she did cheat on Mr. Robinson for years. That woman knew what she did, but she kept going back to her other dude till she couldn't figure out who got her pregnant. Mind you, she was still at the other guy's place a couple of times after Junior birth.
She got on social media on my phone, okay, but didn't close it, forgot to close it. So I'm sitting on the couch, I'm about to jump on my Facebook, but I'm looking at posts, my social media or whatever, I'm looking at posts like, wait a minute, this ain't mine, you know what I'm saying? So instantly I get kind of nosy, you know what I mean, and I start going in inbox, reading inbox.
If you were wondering how Mr. Robinson got to know Ms. Fuller was giving another man access to her body, well, there it is. Man tried using his phone for Facebook and realized it wasn't his account. Anyone would be curious just like Mr. Robinson. And there goes Ms. Fuller's 8-year secret.
Sat down on the couch at first, I was like, So I handed her the phone. I was like, read this. So she reading it, you know, she kind of got a little look on her face or whatever. And I got up after that and I went to the washer and I started taking clothes out the washer and out the dryer and all of that stuff. And I was like, get out. But I'm like, leave Brandon.
Even Ms. Fuller couldn't defend her own actions. There really isn't any way to defend something like that. That was just cruel to Mr. Robinson. But it seems Mr. Robinson is a real gentleman. He's still there looking at her calmly and not throwing his shoes.
Like years ago, and we started seeing each other, and I don't know, I just still kept talking to him or whatever, but it was off and on for about 8 years or whatever. Around the time
It went on for how long?
It was like 8 years off and on, but it wasn't like
8 years off and on?
Yes.
From Ms. Fuller's explanation, it was an on and off thing for those 8 years. Excuse me, ma'am, that time isn't a short period that can be easily waltzed out just like that. That's close to a decade. The patience Mr. Robinson has got in him is top-notch for real.
4, you meet the other potential father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then you have a little break in 2005. 2006, you reconnect with that other potential father, and you're with him all the way through 2011.
It was more like when we would get into it, when he would put me out, that's who I would kick it with. That's who I would call.
Just as the judge mentioned, that's a lot of times Ms. Fuller was sleeping with the other potential baby daddy, me. Fuller has misunderstandings with her boyfriend and she feels camping at another man's house was the solution. You can bet that man was using her as a booty call.
No understanding, Your Honor. I didn't think it was another guy. No way.
So this is your first time figuring that out right now?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Robinson, do you now feel like there's even more of a chance Brandon Jr. is not your biological child?
That's overwhelming and definitely not in a good way. Mr. Robinson has been playing the role of a father to the innocent Brandon Jr. for years while his girlfriend has been kicking it back for some other dude. That's insane.
Withdrawing your petition because you haven't quite decided yet and it's something you would like to revisit at another time?
I don't want to change his name. I don't want to change his name. Everybody know him. Brandon. Everybody call him Brandon.
It's obvious. Mr. Robinson loves that baby to death, and him not being the father of that boy may cause some big trouble in his life. Let's just get it over with. Mr. Robinson should just hear those 4 words so he can know his fate real quick.
Mr. Brandon Robinson Sr., you are his father.
How do you even start to explain who you thought your father was? Isn't your biological father after 29 years? That's a whole lot of years. About 3 decades. Ms. Bronson has all the rights in the world to feel wronged about this.
Ms. Bronson, you have always known the defendant to be your biological father, but have opened your case against him to prove paternity because he now claims he has reason to deny he is your father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thinking about how to start bonding with another man as one's father, is just a silent and terrible way of a torturous experience. There was all the time in the world to let Ms. Bronson know who her real father was before she grew up, but no, these grown-ups decided when she was 29 would be perfect.
So, Ms. Bronson, how do you feel knowing your father is denying paternity?
Your Honor, I feel Mr. Roberts is my father. He's the only father I've known for 29 years. That's my father, period. I know him my whole life. He the only one I call my father. That's who I grew up known as my father.
Yeah, that's right. That's the man that has been with Ms. Bronson through thick and thin, but there's Mr. Banks at the corner waiting for his long-lost daughter to come running into his arms after 29 years. Not sure it happens just like that.
Your Honor, up until 2009.
What happened in 2009?
I had a phone conversation with my mother. Then she mentioned Mr. Banks. And she said, don't you remember the guy that I told you who thought he was your father? When she said that to me, Your Honor, it was a what moment, like, what are you talking about? So she said that he wanted to get in contact with me.
So 2009 was the turning point for Ms. Bronson as her mother revealed to her that she had slept with more than one man at the time of her conception. Here it gets tricky because where's the mother in question that caused this 29 years hassle?
So, Mr. Roberts, take me to the day you found this out.
A few years ago, Miss Blair told me that she needed to talk to me about something, and that's when I found out. I was kept in the dark about all this. I never knew anything about Mr. Banks. I also, spent 8 months in jail for unpaid child support.
So Ms. Bronson is also onto something. She preferred confiding in her supposed father's fiance than her supposed father. Now, Mr. Banks would definitely believe there's a crack right there, and he can easily get in. Thought the relationship was rock solid.
All these years, my thing is, the mother knew or Miss Banks knew of somebody. Why did somebody say something? I was the last to know about everything. And if other people knew, they should have said something. We could have dealt with this issue 20 years ago.
Exactly. Someone should have said something. That poor man staying behind bars for 8 months was for nothing? Damn. The atmosphere in that courtroom is supposed to be nothing close to being calm.
Do you become aware that you potentially could be Ms. Bronson's biological father?
I can recall when she was about 6 or 7, and I ran to her mother and Jasmine and her sister in the park. And then she had told me that Jasmine was my daughter then.
When she was 6 or 7 years old? That's ridiculous. So everyone around Mr. Roberts watched Ms. Bronson grew up from about 6 years old till she was 29 before saying something. At this point, the public opinion about DNA testing being mandatory at birth is right.
15 years, secret persisted.
Well, I thought I was gonna see her again, but I had never seen the mother again, and never
Did
seen
you
Jasmine
exchange
again.
numbers? Did you
Yes,
say,
we
hey,
did.
let's keep in touch?
Yes, we did.
Did you ever call her?
Basically, she took my number, and I said I never heard from her since, though.
Did you think about that day for years?
Yes, I always thought.
So Ms. Bronson and her mother already met Mr. Banks' mother, and they went home and said nothing to Mr. Roberts. Okay, no blame will be apportioned to Ms. Bronson here because she was a little girl. But her mother, this is twisted.
Until this point, you didn't even know Mr. Banks existed.
No,
you
Your
did
Honor.
nothing.
I knew nothing of Mr. Banks. I dated Miss Bronson. I even married her 2 months after Jasmine was born, and I went on my business as the start of my family.
That man needs to know the result of this DNA test quickly before he falls from shock and disappointment. No one deserves to be treated that way. Going to jail for unpaid child support when it's not even certain the child is his just doesn't seem right. That man right there is trying so hard to keep it together and hold his tears from falling.
Mr. Roberts, you are not the father. The next result reads as follows. Mr. Banks, you are the father.
Mr. Sedeno was in the courtroom today to clear his name from the allegations of his being a father. He believed he was done with Ms. Ramirez and no longer had any feelings for her. He even climbed, and she was trying to pin the baby on him.
Mr. Sedeno, you are seeking the results of a paternity test for Ms. Ramirez's 1.5-month-old daughter, Aislinn. You claim you two broke up and now you have no feelings for Ms. Ramirez whatsoever. You say she's claiming you are her baby's father in a fraudulent attempt to try to get you to come back to her.
Yes, Your Honor.
Apparently, Mr. Sedeno was Ms. Ramirez's everything. From her first love to her first boyfriend and basically everything after that. She was pretty hurt that he would want to to deny her and her daughter.
I'm very shocked. I'm very hurt that he would even deny her. He's my first love. He's my first boyfriend, my first everything. And I'm tired of him sending me mixed signals. He comes to my house and he tells me he doesn't love me. He doesn't want to be with me, but yet he's always trying to hug up on me. He tries to sleep with me. And I've even tried to prove it. I've proved it multiple times to his girlfriend.
What you're about to hear will definitely make you ask if Ms. Ramirez was a child, because only kids would do something so petty. Apparently, Ms. Ramirez was in contact with his girlfriend. After she and Mr. Sedano had split up, she told his new girlfriend that she was going to sleep with him regardless.
I told her that I was going to sleep with him, and she told me to prove it. So when we were having sex, I called her on the phone so that she could hear.
What?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You got on the phone with his girlfriend.
Yes.
I gotta get this.
With a smile on his face, Mr. Sedano didn't deny that it happened. But that wasn't his focus in the courtroom. He was here to talk about his doubts. It was pretty funny because Mr. Sedano and Ms. Ramirez were still very intimate while he still had a girlfriend.
I was with my girlfriend when it did, and I have pretty much my list of doubts of why I pretty much think Aislinn's not mine.
So despite the fact that you're admitting that you do still sleep with Ms. Ramirez, even though you're in another relationship?
Yes, it happened. I just slipped up one night.
Just that one night?
No, all the time.
Well, it was
All the
daytime,
time.
but yes.
Mr. Sedano couldn't even keep his stories in check. Funny enough, the child in question wasn't the only child he had with Ms. Ramirez. He had 2 other kids in the equation, but was very certain that the current child in question was definitely not his.
You went to visit your children and end up visiting your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, and I had pretty much fallen victim that day.
You fell victim?
How are you falling a victim when you're the one that initiates
Fell
it?
victim.
He's the one that initiates it.
You admit to having sex with her,
Yes.
but you claim the child in question, Aislinn, is not yours.
Mr. Sedano had a long list of doubts that made him feel he couldn't be the father of her 3rd child. He claimed the pregnancy happened way too fast, and he was sure the period they both had sex didn't aid up to her getting pregnant.
Like, there was a year difference between my son and my daughter, and then she had this 3rd kid, which I wasn't even around her that much long of a time to even for me to be the father. And if I was, why wouldn't she put me on the...
So you're saying that when you were with her, when you all were in a relationship, it took a year to conceive your first child?
Yes.
And then your second child, it took 6 months?
6 months.
So you're saying this just came up too fast?
It was a blaming contest in the courtroom, and they were very good at playing it. Ms. Ramirez claimed he never enjoyed spending time with her kids. She said every time he came to pick them up, he was always so eager to drop them off.
Oh, I can take the kids, but can you do this for me?
No,
That's
it's
not why
never
I'm
like
there.
that. I let him take the kids. He'll say he's gonna take the kids for a few days. He calls me hours later talking about, I need to drop them off. I need to go do something. He doesn't like to keep them. So I am more comfortable with him watching them at my house.
The cats started to fly out of the box, and Ms. Ramirez started to come clean about why she had actually decided to get pregnant. She was very jealous of Mr. Sedano's new girlfriend, and the moment she found out she was pregnant, she decided to have his child too.
Maybe my super conscious mind. I did it to get back at her, which is, I feel bad for it. I love my daughter and I got pregnant for the wrong reasons, but that's why I did it.
So is that why you had an ovulation calendar?
You admitted to the court that you
I
keep
have an ovulation
ovulation
calendar because I keep track of my monthly cycle.
There's no reason an innocent child should be suffering because of the mistakes adults make. At this point, you sort of feel sorry for the little child in question. Anyway, it's time to see what the DNA results say about all of this.
Mr. Sedano, you are her father.
I told you, she is your baby. Now you can't deny her. She's your kid.
What would you do if you saw a girl wearing tight pants? Would you slide into her bed by selling dreams of wedding bells, as the man did in this case? Mr. Wiggins rolled up in court seeking Judge Lake's help to get back his family.
Mr. Wiggins, you are here in court to prove that you are not the father of Ms. Davis's child, Aubrey Wiggins, and say today's results will change your life.
As a result of being alleged the father of Aubrey, I lost my wife and I want to regain my family.
You lost your family? You were married at the time? Explain.
Yes, Your Honor, I was married.
Wow. A brief separation gave him the pass to sleep with another woman. It turned out that in no time, he was up to jiggery pokery with Ms. Davis. Yet he wanted to free himself from accusations of being a father to a baby girl.
We was never together.
Almost 2.5 years?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I was
ma'am.
married, Your Honor. I mean,
Yeah, married, but
it just, it kind of went longer than it should have.
But your hope is that if you can prove that Aubrey is not your biological child, that you can convince your ex-wife.
Further, the defendant claimed that they had been in a committed relationship for 2 years. The man admitted to manipulating and lying to this young lady for his gain, yet blaming her was the reason he lost track of his family. Oh my.
I knew I was in a relationship.
You did?
2.5 years we was together.
I was telling her what I felt I needed to tell her to ultimately get what I wanted.
Obviously, you might have gotten more than you bargained for, right?
He did. He did. A child.
And so why did you think you were in a relationship, Ms. Davis?
He stated that multiple times.
Was he telling you there was going to be a future?
Yes.
The next Judge Lake hopped into the pregnancy. It slipped out that Mr. Wiggins' mistress wanted his wife out of his life because she expected to have her whole life with him. So he put on his deception hat and duped baby mama like this.
I asked her to let me tell my wife, and of course, because she wanted my wife out of the picture, because she did want more.
You're right. I wanted more because that's what you presented.
And I was good to her. I mean, because ultimately I was trying to get something out of her. So I did what I had to do. I felt I needed to do.
Like 2.5 years, how we're not together?
Things happen or said in the bedroom that may not always be.
However, he asserted that Miss Davis approached his wife on Facebook and disrupted his married life. Oh man, are you out of your mind? I mean, he has no control over his desires, and yet, has the defendant been inoculated for the havoc? That just makes no sense.
Miss Davis told her that she was pregnant and that she wasn't going anywhere. She inboxed her on Facebook, which caused a lot of havoc in my life.
You wasn't gonna be a man.
Did it cause the havoc or did you cause the havoc?
He did.
Miss Davis immediately was like, well, it doesn't matter what nobody else think. Oh, I ain't going nowhere.
Right, because you lay down with me.
Okay, so the next Chronicles of Wiggins started. He claimed that she had been busy with another man at the time she conceived the baby because he sent some text messages on her phone. So that's why he was denying paternity.
We got into a bit of an altercation. I don't remember the exact details. And my family member seen her be picked up by another guy.
That was my cousin.
That she claims to be her cousin. Ending that night, and so it pissed me off to see her, this guy saying he wanted to have love, so now I waste all this money. And then you're telling me, okay, that, you know, I have a baby by you when you're sleeping with another guy. That's what made me
I never slept with no one.
To prove his sham show right, the alleged father brought an exhibit to the court. He alleged that Miss Davis had fabricated his name on the birth certificate, but how she forged his name was quite interesting.
Because I was married, I wasn't just supposed to go on her birth certificate.
But
there
you
was supposed to be a
on there.
paternity established. I did not.
Hey, what, this birthday issue is just a typo?
That he wrote.
Do you think he wrote his wrong birthday on purpose?
Right, and because
No,
when I seen it, when we got the birth certificate, I let him know that whatever he signed it wrong.
Until now, it was apparent that Mr. Wiggin was a compulsive liar who made sham allegations about baby mama, and he was clowning just to defend himself. Further, it came out that they were still sleeping together.
At the same time, two different answers.
Right.
Exact same time.
When was the last time you two were intimate?
It's been a while.
Last night.
No, Your Honor, we was at separate hotels, no, Your Honor, that's not true.
And you made your way to my hotel.
That is not true,
Right.
Your Honor.
Yeah, Judge Lake was right. He was playing on both sides of the fence, yet he contended that he wanted to get back his family. However, their back and forth did not help and made things more complicated. So the last hope to get closure was to reveal the DNA results.
In the case of Wiggins versus Davis, when it comes to 23-month-old Aubrey Wiggins, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Wiggins, you are the father.
Ms. Lester believes Mr. Lewis denies fathering her 21-month-old son, Raiden, because she's refused to have sex with him anymore. But Mr. Lewis claims it's because Ms. Lester was openly sleeping with other men.
Ms. Lester, you opened this case against Mr. Lewis because you say he denies fathering your 21-month-old son, Raiden.
Yes, Your Honor.
Only because you won't have sex with him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lewis, you claim Ms. Lester was openly sleeping with several men.
I'm curious to see what Mr. Lewis and Ms. Lester have in the bag today. There's a 21-month-old baby involved, and while Mr. Lewis says he is not the father, Ms. Lester insists he is. Let's find out more.
We planned my son.
We did not plan a baby.
Yes, we did.
No, we did not.
We've also never used a condom. We talked about having a baby numerous times, so
this is all new to me on why he's not claiming my son.
So you're denying the baby?
No, I'm not denying a baby. It's just Jatoya Lester, she just always lying. She's known the street to be a hoe.
These two have no filter and no respect for each other. Mr. Lewis knew Ms. Lester was known to sleep around. Why then did he continuously have unprotected sex with her? Why? Let us find out.
Seen her at a grocery store one day. She was with another man then, so I didn't say nothing. When I seen her on Facebook, I inboxed her. She inboxed me back, saying all guys want to do is have sex. I lied and said no, so that same
He was in a relationship at the time, Your Honor.
that same exact night, I went over her house, we had sex.
They met up after a long time when they were both seeing other people. Then, out of the blue, they confessed love to each other and decided to have a baby? Now, this story is just ridiculous.
He thought I was playing when I said I was pregnant.
I never thought.
Yes, you did, because you kept saying you ain't pregnant, you ain't pregnant. Yes, you did. Correction. Yes, you did.
No, I
and
never thought you
then
was playing.
the day I had my son, I did not call him because he knew the day that I was having my son because I had to get a cesarean operation.
She's lying.
Ms. Lester told another man that he was the father of her son. In fact, this man was at the hospital during the birth and he signed the birth certificate. Why then is Ms. Lester suddenly pinning the paternity of her son on Mr. Lewis?
I had sex to the other man 2 weeks prior to him getting me finding out I was pregnant.
So why isn't the other man here too?
Because we did a test and it came back that he was not his father. And he knew that because it was posted on social media. So upon the results being posted on social media.
For what reason did she post paternity results on social media? That's insane. Guess she wanted everyone to know the other guy wasn't the father of her child, but it still doesn't make sense.
I've been shot multiple times to where the doctors have pumped so much medicine in my body, and they told me that I couldn't have kids at all.
And since that time, you haven't fathered any other children.
No.
And that's why you feel Raiden is not your biological child.
First of all, Yana, he doesn't even look like me.
It's funny how people choose to hold back important details that could help the case go on faster. Up until now, why didn't anyone mention Mr. Lewis's possible sterility and Ms. Lester's fiancé? These should be the final pieces to complete the puzzle.
When I got in the picture, Raiden was already, I'd say, 3 to 4 months.
So you don't believe you can't be, what? No, that still doesn't matter because if you've been 10 years on and off.
Not sexually though, Yana. This is just.
You believe it.
He knows that then like I said, I'm really here for support, really.
Well, well, well. Ms. Lester's got herself a good fiancé willing to step up and care for Raiden regardless of who his father is. But we can't figure out how Ms. Lester has been sleeping around while being in a 10-year-old relationship. How do you decide to have a baby with another man when you are engaged to someone else? It doesn't add up.
At the beginning of this year, that's when we decided to be serious with this relationship.
How can she be serious when she just hit me 2 weeks ago?
I called him.
Naked.
What?
Bucket naked. In the tub while he's out of town, trying to get me to come have sex with her.
Do you have proof?
It must be a hell of a ride to be engaged to a woman like Ms. Lester. She claims she and her fiancé decided to be committed to each other at the start of the year. But just 2 weeks before this case, she hit on Mr. Lewis.
It's a real joy to me. I developed this bond with him. He's developed a bond with my family. He's been around all of my family, and they all just love him to death.
And you come and get him every weekend?
Every other week I come and get him. He got clothes and everything at my house.
And you have fallen in love, completely in love?
Totally in love with him.
Mr. Lewis's mom has formed a bond with the baby. Raiden spends time with their family, and Grandma doesn't want that taken away from her. Sadly, only the results can determine if Grandma's gonna get her wish or not.
I mean, he claimed that he didn't have a father when he was growing up. I don't want that for my son. Off of the decisions and the mistakes that I've made in the past. All we can do from our mistakes is learn from them and make sure that we don't make them again.
Hope he come back mine. You know, if he come back mine, I'm gonna be in his life and do what I need to do as a father.
Indeed, it'll be a miracle baby. And if there is one thing we know about paternity court, it is that miracles are always happening here. This is the most miraculous court in the world. The results are in. Let's find out whose baby Raiden is.
Mr. Lewis, you are not the father.
Can I say this? I made a mistake.
Ms. Ebony Parker appears before the judge suing Mr. Morton and his girlfriend, Miss Lemon. The lawsuit is for them denying the paternity of her child, Aaron, after having sex with both of them severally. She claims that the man's girlfriend turned him against her because she has been unable to get pregnant herself.
Ms. Parker, in your suit, you claim Mr. Morton fathered your 7-month-old son, Aaron, while in a relationship with his current girlfriend.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say the only reason he denies paternity is because his girlfriend turned him against you because she's been unable to conceive a child with him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Wow, that's just crazy. Ms. Lemon says she and her boyfriend had sex with his baby mama because Ms. Parker was lonely. Also, she says her freakiness led her to make such a decision.
The only reason why she was able to have sex with us is because I asked my boyfriend to have sex with her because she was lonely. My desires, me and my little freakiness, I said, my boyfriend, can you have sex with your pregnant baby mother because she's in need?
It appears that Aaron was born when the pregnancy was 7 months old, and that made the calculations a bit confusing. However, the accuser is confident about her claims, and there is nothing in this world that's going to change her mind.
I'm not tripping off of that. I know that that's my son's father. I know. He looks exactly like my other son.
And so you're doubtful, Mr. Morton, because you say there's a timing issue.
Yes, she
So I wanna
supposedly had got
understand your
pregnant
doubt.
in May, but from my understanding, that's only would be 7 months if she
I
had
never
my son
said I
in.
got pregnant in May, Your Honor.
Oh, damn! In the heat of the moment, Ms. Lemon says Ms. Parker's boyfriend swears that he's Aaron's father, but the accuser had to continuously remind him that he's not, and that she had sex with him while she was already pregnant.
We down, yep, I'm clocking it.
You
Just
can't
like you
clock
clock
it though,
mine. I
baby.
can.
You can't.
We
You
downtown.
can't clock
The
it.
guy walks up to her, they talking and everything, and he swears up and down Aaron is his. She had to keep reminding him that it's not yours, boo, it's not yours. I had sex with you after he was already in my stomach.
Exactly.
Is Mr. Morton actually Aaron's father, or is Ms. Parker just forcing her son or him? At this point, that remains a mystery. I mean, there seems to be a lot of uncertainty in the courtroom, and for some reason, I don't believe a word coming out of their mouth.
Before my boyfriend went away, I was pregnant by him. That's what they're getting confused. I had a whole miscarriage, Your Honor. A whole miscarriage by this man.
Now all of a sudden.
I had this was before though. This is before I got pregnant
He was only
again.
locked up
You're wrong.
a
He
month or
wasn't even
something.
away when I was pregnant.
After she got pregnant, she told him it wasn't his because she had a sonogram saying she was 13 weeks pregnant. However, when she went for her first prenatal appointment, a fetal test confirmed that she was 8 weeks pregnant instead.
I told him I was pregnant, and I did. I'm not gonna lie. I told him, this is not your baby. Being as though I have a sonogram telling me I'm 13 weeks. So when I go to my first prenatal appointment and they give me a fetal assessment, and they say, no, miss, you're 8 weeks pregnant.
Aha! Now, when she showed him the pregnancy sonogram, he didn't believe her. In fairness, how could he? Although he didn't follow her for the appointments, he was there when she gave birth to Aaron. Bittersweet is what I would call that.
You still had doubts. Did you participate? You have a child with her already. Did you
Yes.
participate in the birth? Were you there through the pregnancy?
I didn't
Were
go
you-
to none of the appointments. I ain't show up to none of the doctor's appointments, but
have
I
a
was
picture.
there when
He's
she
talking about
had
evidence.
He's talking about Aaron.
I have a picture of him holding my son when he first came out.
Ron, may I see that, please?
The accuser filed a lawsuit against him for harboring feelings for her son, but not accepting his responsibilities over him. Perhaps she's right for filing a lawsuit against him for showing affection to the baby, but not taking full responsibility for his well-being.
This feeling that he steps up to the plate and takes care of other people's children,
Yeah, so
but
why
does
should
not properly take care of baby Aaron is the basis of your suit.
Right.
You're suing for $2,047 in child care expenses, things you've spent on baby Aaron.
Ms. Mary, the defendant's mother, appears before the judge to testify that he didn't do anything for the first child when he was born, so she doesn't want him to repeat the same ill act for Aaron. His mom genuinely believes that the newborn is his kid, and that's why she's appearing before the judge to testify.
For the most part, as far as support system, when she first had baby Aaron, she did not have anything because we were supposed to try to get together a baby shower. So she did have him early. So as far as support system, it was me and my daughter, which is Eric's sister,
And her
Mr.
mother.
Morton's sister.
And her mother.
And excuse me, I'm talking.
It don't matter.
It does.
It don't.
Is Mr. Morton's mother right about her testimony? Is he right about not his claims of not being Aaron's biological father? Let's find out together.
Mr. Morton, you are Aaron's father.
Thank you. I told you, like I'm not no. Come on. Thank you. I need that paper so I can go down child support tomorrow morning when I get up.